Hi everyone, it's Andy from Hobby Headquarters. Well, I was walking around my store the other day thinking about the different projects I want to work on, and just ever get in one of those moods where you just didn't want to start anything massive or something that was just going to make you pull out what remaining hair you have left on it. So I found a masterpiece models, and that's what this is right here, diorama base. And I looked at it for a little bit and I thought, that could be perfect because it's like 5 or 6 parts to put together, and it's all going to be painting and weathering and detailing. And I decided that's what I'm going to build right now. So this video is going to be me having just a lot of fun, basically putting together a diorama base. And as you see, we've got our Tamiya Panzer 4F in here. When I started the video, I didn't know which tank I was going to put inside of it, and I thought, well, this is going to fit, and I'll explain how we got it to fit on there with all the extra bricks and all that other stuff on there. So I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, please go ahead and hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel, and you can ring the bell, and that way you'll be notified every time a new video comes out. So let's get started. So here is our ruined factory in its raw state here. I've started cleaning up some of the resin a little bit, but before we start doing anything, I thought I would kind of dry fit it together to give you guys an idea of what we're looking at here. So obviously the base is all one solid piece. We've got our wall. We've got looks like a venting system right here that'll get attached to this wall. Over in here we have a motor, which we'll have some mounts for. It'll have this broken gear section right here, followed up by a pipe that comes down, kind of like in that there. And there's a few other little minor parts here and there, rest of the engine and stuff like that. So what I thought I would do first is, because we're going to paint obviously all these different parts, but I'm going to use a variety of paints and primers to go ahead and start painting the bulk of some of these pieces. So for example, on this wall, all of this red brick, we're going to use Tamiya's primer, the red oxide primer. It actually makes a pretty good brick color to start off. And of course, we can do all of our touch-ups on it. In the area down here, this is supposed to be a concrete slab, so we'll use some gray Mr. Surfacer. The rest of the area in here, we'll put a brown undercoat on it. And then when it comes to the motor, I will assemble all of that right now, and then we will give it a base color of a metal to start. And then, of course, we'll do all of our rust and stuff on top of that. And in this case, I'm going to just use light gunmetal. I've got a can of it, and it's just going to be the base coat on it here. So I'm going to take these outside because the paint's kind of strong. And we're going to give this area the red oxide primer, all the gray, and then the brown. And I'm going to come back and show you what that looks like right after. Should say this, we're going to assemble this motor first. We're going to build that all as one piece and then paint it all as one piece. And now with the sub-assemblies put together here, we can go ahead and put our primers on. Now that we have the red oxide color for the bricks, now we want to go ahead and create the mortar effect. And in this case right here, I'm just using a little bit of deck tan, thinned way down, and we're going to put kind of a heavy amount on here because a lot of it is going to get wiped off. But we want it to soak into all of the grout areas there. Make sure it fills in with that. Anywhere that we have brick. Even some spaces we don't. We can just blend all that in later on. These are just primer coats that we put down to start the process of color. And then any of the places that the paint starts to pool, can just start with a paper towel, start wiping it off the actual brick portion. And if you're not too heavy-handed with it, it should leave the grout or the mortar behind, and you should get something very similar to the way that looks right there. And you can put multiple counts on. I've actually taken a little bit more off on this one. I might actually put another coat on it there, let it build up. But it's that easy to go ahead and start creating a brick effect. And then after all of that is dry, we'll take a little black panel liner and fill in like the bottom crack down there to give it a little bit of a shadow effect. Wouldn't be as much mortar sticking out on there. So we're going to clean all that up. Actually, I'm going to put the mortar in all of the walls right now, as well as it looks like there is brick on the ground, but I don't know if there would be mortar on the ones on the ground in here. I think these would probably have just been laid bricks, like on sand, like they do in a backyard. Now we are painting all of the areas that are supposed to be kind of like a concrete color. To start it off, we're just going to go with a dark gray, because it's not going to be that red brick color that the rest of the building would be painted. And this is going to be kind of our base coat right here. So we got to paint all of these areas that clearly aren't brick. So we'll get all of that painted right now. Now to blend all the base together, we're just pouring some of our excess paint, just like that, and then taking a sponge dipped in rubbing alcohol. And you can see how that starts to blend it all together. And while that other stuff is drying, we're going to put a little brown panel liner on here. This is enamel. Obviously it's going on really thick, but we're going to go over it with some enamel thinner, and that'll remove quite a bit of the excess here. But we want to make sure it goes into all the little crevices first. And I don't want too much to build up on the, want some streaks and stuff to come down onto the concrete, but not heavy on that. And as I blot some of this off, I'm just wiping it off on a paper towel. Blend that in right there. see, we've got a nice dirty wall now. Now we're going to use a little black panel liner and some dark brown panel liner. And we're just going to create a few little spots of grease and grime that built up. Maybe a little bit in the crack down here. We did a bunch of it right over in here because there's going to be a piece in front of it, so we want to take care of that now. And just in some, and then lots of areas around where the engine components and stuff. Could you imagine parts of it have leaked oil? Got kind of grimy. So the object is here, as you can see, we're just going over and just blotting all different colors. Don't forget, a building fell down here. So you're going to see still lots of red brick dust. That's why we left so much red still in here. And of course, I'm going to go back over in these individual bricks and we will highlight them slightly. But everything's still going to have a dust of concrete and whatever roofing material it was and brick dust. And all that is going to get kind of blended together in here. And that's what we're doing right now. And as it starts to dry, it'll start to get a more a mottled, ununiform effect, but still slightly blend together that it looks like it happened, like a building fell down. As you can see, the all the washes and things like that are starting to dry now. So now I think we can go ahead and put the engine, this broken gear mechanism, and the radiator slash little water tank up on top here, or fuel tank I should say, up on top here, and we can glue all of these pieces into place. Now I did paint them another color earlier on. Decided I don't want this factory to look like it fell down 10 years ago. I want to look like it's been bombed out fairly recently. So I don't think there's going to be a ton of rust on the equipment. So I sprayed them a silver color and then misted over a black. So we still have a little bit of like a little bit of a metal color coming through. And we are going to do some weathering on that as well. So let me get these glued into place here. Oh, we also have this piece right here. It's going to get glued up against the wall. So I'll get those glued on right now, and then we'll show you some weathering on those. And we're just going to use just regular super glue to get those glued into place because they're all resin pieces. Now we're going to put a little bit of rust staining in some areas. And we're going to be using some enamel. And like I've told you before, we put it on a little bit heavier. And then we'll use some enamel thinner to thin it out and take off any of the excess. But this way we can put it exactly where we want to. So in my mind, the way I'm approaching this is a building that's been bombed out for a few months. The elements are getting to this stuff, so some of the areas are starting to rust a little bit, but not crazy. I'm also going to use some fuel stains to fuel stain up the top in here. Have some little surface rust starting to appear in some of these little areas. And then with a flat brush and our enamel thinner, kind of just blot it on there and it kind of blends it all in. Soaks into the nooks and crannies a little bit more. Just like that. Now for the fuel stains are more of a shiny, you know, not a flat dull like the rust would be. So we're going to put some of those all over the place here. It's going to kind of duplicate like oil or grease or anything like that. We're also going to take all of it in here where all the gears were. And we can even put a little bit inside there. Using a little bit of our thinner. So you get the idea of what we're trying to accomplish here. There's no hard, fast rules on how we're doing this. It's a mess. It's supposed to look like a mess. It's a building that fell in on itself. So anything you really do is not really wrong. I mean, there's all different ways that a building can collapse and what buildings are made out of and the way all this stuff in here would work. So I'm going to keep going over it. We're going to keep putting some stains here and there, kind of blend all that together, and like a little bit, maybe a little surface rust on these. Plus also, I'm using a little metallic pigment powder to go over any of these metal areas, which I've started to do right here, to give the effect that this is actually metal. So you can see here the gear has a little bit of a shine to it, and I've also put a little bit of the shine on the edges of some of these other pieces here. And then we can go back over with some of the rust to kind of blend it together. So nothing's too shiny, nothing's too dirty. Now you get this the idea of how it's all coming together. Everything looks kind of greasy and grimy and worn over here. We've got stains and dirt and debris. But one thing that I think that is missing out of this, not only the vehicle, of course, that we're going to put on here, but is the piles of extra brick. There is a building that was up here, and where is the rest of the building when it fell in? Now, I know a lot of it fell on the outside, but some had to fall inside there. So let me show you what I did. I've had these little ceramic bricks for, God, probably 10 years in a bag in my store. So I took a big handful of those and laid them out on a box and then sprayed them with the red oxide primer from Tamiya, shook them up, sprayed them again, because they were kind of this pinkish color in there. But I didn't want to get rid of all the pink color because that's going to give some definition and some the different colors that we're going to see. And what you can see what we've done here is we started to pile up some of the excess brick that we'll be able to put all around in these areas in here. And I think that just gives it so much more kick to it. And what I'm going to end up doing is I decided I'm going to go ahead and use this particular vehicle, our Panzer IV from Tamiya, to put in here like it's backed in. Okay, I've moved the the vehicle a little bit closer to the camera there to talk to you about a couple things that we're going to do also. So immediately, because we built this tank and it just had flat bottom tracks because it was going to go just on a flat surface, we have lots of gaps underneath here that look obviously wrong. The tank would have flexible suspension, and that would contour all into all those little bumps and ruts. So what we're going to end up doing is using lots of our excess bricks, and we will basically tuck a lot of this underneath here, get it into the right position that we want to make it look like it's actually sitting on top of something. And it'll take a little bit of time, but with a little bit of finesse we can work all these bricks into the right position. And then once I get them all in the right position, I can go ahead and mix up some flat. We want to use the flat Mod Podge, and the flat Mod Podge mixed with a little bit of water will be able to, with a pipette dropper, go ahead and push it all in there. And I'll show you a little bit of that in a minute there, but we'll be able to push all of that in there, and that'll fuse all these bricks together so they're not falling off all over the place. And it'll also help secure the back of the, or the bottom of the tank to the base. Still might put a little bit of extra glue on the very back because I don't want this obviously falling off at any time. And so it's going to take a little bit. Let me go ahead and start putting all of these extra bricks in here, and then we'll secure it and we'll show you what it looks like. And now we're going to use, with a pipette, we're going to kind of layer this as well too. We're going to do a couple different layers so we can build it up. But we're first going to... Hi everyone, Future Andy here. I know as you watch me put the pipette with the glue mixture on there, some of you are probably saying, why don't you spray it with rubbing alcohol first and it'll break the surface tension and let the glue flow easier. And I would do that if it wasn't for the fact I don't want to get rubbing alcohol on the actual tank. So that is why we're doing it just like that. So I'm going to go over the entire area with all the brick, and we'll get that all glued down, and maybe a couple layers like I said. We also took some bricks and put them like on the windowsills, places like that, to give it a little bit more character to the diorama. So I'm going to get all this done right now. We're going to let this dry. It's going to take a little bit of time to dry, and then we'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, we've let the stuff dry now, so it's all nice and firm on there. What I did too is when the stuff firmed up a little bit, but not too bad, I actually pulled the tank out of there. So I do have the ability, if I need to remove the tank at any time. But hopefully you can see how we built up the brickwork underneath both sets of tracks. So the tank's gonna ride nice and flat. I did use a flat type of glue. I actually used the static tack. I didn't have any of the flat Mod Podge like I thought I had, but it still has a little bit of a shine to it now. So we're going to remove the tank and spray all of the bricks with a matte varnish to kind of flatten them out a little bit. And while the flat dries on the bricks, we're just going to use a little bit of some brown washes that I have, multiple colors, probably like 2 or 3 different versions, and we're just going to lightly blot them on and start building up some more brown effect as opposed to some of the red that was kind of heavy in some areas there. Just a little bit, just to blend it together. And we can also go back here, put some dirty stain marks up on the walls and things like that too. Just lightly though, just to add a little bit more depth to the diorama. And before the wash is dry, we're taking a little light sienna pigment powder right out of the bottle and just randomly blotting it into there. So when it dries, it'll give it a little variation in color. And of course we can go ahead and drop our tank. And you see how it fits kind of right back in like a puzzle piece. There, nice and secure on there. And here we are, guys. Here is our completed model with the Panzer IV fitted into place there, nice and snugly. Okay, I was showing you earlier, but still removable if we decide we want to take it out, use it in something else. It's all ready to come apart. What I'm going to try to do here now is turn on the turntable. And I'm going to start it all the way over here because obviously the back of the thing is not much to look at, but give you a little, let's say 180 to 270 degree view of the piece here. And as we come around the front, you can see all the debris underneath there, and I have to say I had a lot of fun building this up. It was not much building to do, as you can see. It's lots of painting, which is something I love to do. The artistic part of model building is the painting and weathering, and just having some fun with it and coming up with ideas like dropping the Panzer IV. When I first started the diorama, I didn't know actually what I was going to put inside this. Like I said earlier, just have some fun with it. And Panzer IV looks like it fits pretty nicely on that diorama. Doesn't take too much of it up. And it just fits, basically, especially once we added all that extra brick rubble. So if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and hit the like button down below. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and subscribe. And I want to thank you as always for watching. And please stay tuned because we have many more videos coming.